Hello and welcome back. Today we're covering the latest updates in U.S. immigration policy, visa processing, and recent administrative developments that may affect green card applicants, work visa holders, and families currently navigating the immigration system. As always, this report is based on publicly available government information and verified sources. This video is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal advice. Let's begin. Over the past several days, immigration analysts have been closely watching processing time trends at USCIS service centers. While there has not been a sweeping nationwide policy change announced this week, processing speed adjustments and internal administrative updates are continuing. For employment-based applicants, certain categories remain backlogged depending on country of origin. However, some service centers have reported gradual improvements in document review times. Family-based green card petitions are also continuing to move forward, although wait times still vary significantly. It is important to understand that immigration updates often happen in phases. Not every internal adjustment results in a public headline. Now, here's what applicants should focus on this week. If you have a pending case, regularly monitor your USCIS online account for status changes. Some applicants have reported receiving updated requests for evidence, commonly known as RFEs. Responding accurately and on time remains critical. For those adjusting status within the United States, biometrics appointments continue under standard scheduling procedures. There is no confirmed nationwide pause on biometric processing at this time. And before we continue, let's clarify something important. There are currently no officially announced emergency immigration restrictions affecting lawful permanent residents or valid visa holders this week. However, policy discussions remain active in Washington, and we'll explain what that could mean, based only on confirmed information, right after this. Continuing our immigration update, let's talk about employment-based visas and work authorization trends that applicants and families should watch this week. One area that continues to draw attention is the H-1B visa category, commonly used by skilled workers in specialty occupations. At this time, there has been no announcement of suspension or cancellation of the H-1B program. USCIS continues to accept petitions under standard procedures. However, employers and applicants should be aware that requests for evidence, or RFEs, remain common in this category. An RFE typically means the service center is asking for additional documentation before further review. If you or someone you know receives an RFE, make sure to respond carefully and completely within the deadline specified. Consult with an immigration attorney if you need assistance. Next, let's discuss work authorization documents, commonly known as EADs. EADs allow eligible non-immigrant visa holders an adjustment of status applicants to work legally in the United States. Recent updates from USCIS indicate that processing times for EAD renewals may vary depending on service center workload. Some applicants report improvements, while others continue to experience longer intervals. If your EAD has expired or is nearing expiration, it is important to file your renewal application as early as allowed, typically up to 180 days before expiration. Now let's transition to another topic: travel and visa interviews. For many non-immigrant categories, including tourist, B2, student F1, and exchange visitor, J1 visas, visa interviews continue at U.S. consulates and embassies around the world. While some consulates have experienced scheduling delays, there has been no official announcement of a global pause on visa interviews. Applicants should check the U.S. Department of State's official website for the most updated appointment availability. It is also worth noting that passport validity continues to be a key requirement. Travelers should ensure that passport expiration dates meet the requirements of their visa category before planning international trips. Before we wrap up this segment, here's a reminder. Immigration policy updates often develop gradually. Even when changes are proposed by lawmakers or administrative officials, implementation typically takes weeks or months, and official guidance is always posted on government websites. Always rely on trusted official sources rather than social media rumors when making decisions about your immigration status, including uscis.gov and travel.state.gov. And continuing our coverage, now let's move into asylum and refugee-related developments, an area many viewers have been asking about. Currently, there has been no official nationwide suspension of asylum applications inside the United States. Individuals who are physically present in the U.S. may still file for asylum if they meet eligibility requirements under existing immigration law. However, processing times remain a significant issue. USCIS continues to experience backlog pressures in asylum interviews. In many regions, applicants may wait months, sometimes longer, before receiving interview notices. It is important to understand that delays do not automatically mean denial. Backlogs are largely administrative and related to case volume. For those with pending asylum cases, maintaining updated contact information with USCIS is critical. If you move, you must submit a change of address promptly to avoid missing important notices. Now shifting to family-based immigration. Family petitions, including Form I-130, continue to be processed. U.S. citizens can still petition for spouses, unmarried children, and parents, while lawful permanent residents may petition for certain eligible family members. Visa Bulletin movement remains dependent on country of chargeability and category. Some preference categories continue to move slowly due to annual visa limits. Applicants should carefully monitor the monthly Visa Bulletin released by the U.S. Department of State to track priority date movement. Next, naturalization and citizenship updates. Form N-400 naturalization applications continue to be processed nationwide. In several field offices, interview scheduling appears stable, though timelines vary by location. Applicants preparing for the citizenship test should ensure they study the current civics questions published on the official USCIS website. There has been no official change announced to the standard English and civics testing structure as of now. Finally, let's briefly address green card backlogs. Employment-based and family-based green card categories are subject to annual numerical caps set by Congress. When demand exceeds supply, especially for applicants from high-demand countries, priority dates can retrogress. This means the wait time may temporarily increase. Understanding how these visa caps work can help reduce confusion and anxiety for applicants. And we continue our in-depth coverage ahead. In the next segment, we will look at border processing updates, temporary protected status, TPS, review, DACA situation, travel rule clarifications, practical advice for current visa holders. Stay with us as we continue breaking this down step by step. Now let's turn to border processing and enforcement-related updates. At this time, U.S. Customs and Border Protection continues standard processing procedures at official ports of entry. Individuals presenting themselves at designated entry points are processed under existing federal immigration law. There has been increased operational coordination in certain regions, but no official nationwide closure of legal ports of entry has been announced. It's important to distinguish between policy discussions and officially implemented rules. Proposals or political statements do not automatically change immigration law. Only formal regulatory or legislative action does. Now let's talk about temporary protected status, commonly known as TPS. TPS is granted to eligible nationals of certain countries facing ongoing armed conflict, environmental disaster, or extraordinary conditions. As of now, existing TPS designations remain active for qualifying countries under their previously announced timelines. Any extensions, redesignations, or terminations are formally published in the Federal Register. If someone holds TPS, they should carefully track re-registration deadlines and maintain valid documentation. Next, let's address DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. Current DACA recipients may continue to renew their status under existing court-guided procedures. However, new initial applications are still subject to legal limitations based on ongoing federal court rulings. There has been no new executive announcement eliminating the program this week. Because DACA policy has evolved through litigation, applicants should closely monitor official USCIS updates rather than relying on social media speculation. Now let's briefly discuss travel rules for visa holders. Non-immigrant visa holders, including students, tourists, and work visa holders, must ensure that their visa stamp and passport remain valid for re-entry. Additionally, maintaining proper status inside the United States is critical. Overstays can significantly impact future immigration benefits. Travelers should also review whether they require advance parole before leaving the country, particularly if they have pending adjustment of status applications. As always, policy clarity comes from official agencies, including USCIS, CBP, and the Department of State. We're continuing to monitor developments and separating confirmed updates from rumor or speculation. Coming up next in our continued coverage, border processing updates, temporary protected status, TPS review, DACA situation, travel rule clarifications, practical advice for current visa holders. Stay with us as we continue breaking this down step by step. And continuing our in-depth coverage. Now let's take a closer look at nationwide processing time trends. Across different USCIS service centers, processing times continue to vary depending on case type and workload. Some employment-based petitions have seen modest stabilization, while certain family-based categories remain slower due to volume. Applicants can check estimated processing times directly on the official USCIS website by entering their form number and service center location. It's important to understand that posted timelines are estimates, not guarantees. Individual case complexity can affect adjudication speed. Now let's move to filing fees and potential cost considerations. As of the latest officially published fee schedule, standard filing fees remain in effect unless otherwise formally updated in the Federal Register. Occasionally, fee adjustments are proposed, but until officially implemented, the current schedule remains valid. Applicants should always verify payment amounts directly from uscis.gov before submitting applications to avoid rejection. Next, let's talk about what applicants should prepare right now, regardless of category. First, maintain organized copies of all immigration documents, including approval notices, receipts, visa stamps, I-94 records, and employment authorization cards. Second, ensure that your mailing address is updated with USCIS if you move. Missing official mail can delay or negatively impact your case. Third, track expiration dates, especially for work authorization, visa status, or passport validity. Preparation and documentation consistency can reduce stress during processing. Now let's zoom out briefly and discuss the broader immigration outlook. Immigration policy in the United States evolves through legislation, executive action, and court decisions. Major structural changes typically require congressional action. While public debate continues around border management, employment visas, humanitarian programs, and enforcement priorities, no sweeping nationwide immigration overhaul has been officially enacted at this moment. That means most applicants should continue following existing procedures unless formal changes are announced by federal authorities. Staying informed but calm is key. We will continue to separate verified government announcements from speculation so you can make informed decisions about your status and planning. Up next in our continuing coverage, processing time trends nationwide, fee updates and possible changes, what applicants should prepare right now, practical documentation checklist, long-term immigration outlook analysis. Stay with us as we move forward. And continuing our coverage as we move toward the conclusion of today's immigration update. Let's now discuss green card interview trends and adjustment of status updates. For applicants filing Form I-485, adjustment of status, interview scheduling continues depending on field office workload. Some applicants report interview waivers in certain employment-based categories, while many family-based applicants are still being scheduled for in-person interviews. There has been no official nationwide cancellation of adjustment interviews. Each case is reviewed individually based on eligibility and documentation strength. If you receive an interview notice, preparation is key. Bring original documents, updated financial evidence if applicable, and review your submitted forms carefully before attending. Now regarding consular processing, for applicants outside the United States, National Visa Center processing continues as scheduled. Once documents are approved and a visa number is available, cases are transferred to U.S. embassies or consulates for interviews. Appointment availability varies by country, and applicants should monitor their case status directly through official Department of State portals. Next, let's give a practical reminder for 2026 applicants and ongoing cases. Always verify updates directly through USCIS.gov or travel.state.gov. Avoid relying solely on unofficial social media sources. Keep copies of every filing and receipt. Maintain valid legal status whenever possible. Seek licensed legal advice for case-specific concerns. Immigration processes can feel overwhelming, especially when policy discussions make headlines. But it's important to separate confirmed regulatory action from political debate. As of today, the U.S. immigration system continues operating under existing federal law. Any major structural reform would require formal legislative or executive implementation, and such changes are always publicly documented. Our goal with this broadcast is simple: to provide calm, verified, and neutral updates so you can stay informed without unnecessary fear or speculation. Before we close, this channel shares publicly available information for general awareness only. This is not legal advice. For personal case guidance, consult a licensed immigration attorney or accredited representative. If you found this breakdown helpful, consider subscribing for consistent, clear, and verified U.S. immigration updates. We'll continue monitoring official announcements and bringing you structured updates in this same format. Thank you for staying with us through this full report. We'll see you in the next update.